Hello and welcome to Markets today on CNBC TV 18. I'm Ekta Batra and joining me from the Delhi News Centre is Surbi Upadhyay. Surbi, volatile, choppy day you'd have to say for the Nifty. Over 100 point range is what we swung in. Mid-caps around 137 point range in today's trading session. But all's well that ends well. Nifty above 8,700 today.
Absolutely. At least finally we saw some specks of green on the screen after a long gap. All right, on that note, let's run through the top stories. Bulls make a comeback on Dalal Street as a late rally pushes the benchmark indices higher by 1%. The Nifty reclaims the 8,700 mark. The Sensex also gains almost 300 points. FMCG, oil and gas and bank stocks lead the buying.
JSPL falls close to 8% or around 8% on fears that it may lose the Gara Palma and Tara coal blocks won in the coal auctions. Coal Secretary Anil Swarup says the decision on 8 blocks is under review as the bids received for them were lower than the prevailing trend.
Mid-caps perform in line with blue chips, with the mid-cap index rising 1% today. FAT surges 20% as the Fertilizer Ministry proposes a revival package for the company. Amtech Auto gains after acquiring a German forging firm. But KPIT Tech falls 5% as it becomes the latest IT company to sound a cautious note on Q4 revenue growth.
All right, those are the top stories, but here are the experts that we have lined up on the show tonight. Madhu Kela and Sanjay Dutt will give us their outlook on the market, and we'll also get you an excerpt of an exclusive conversation with the Coal Secretary Anil Swarup on the fate of the coal blocks that will be re-auctioned.
All right, so plenty of opinion coming your way, and of course that all-important interview with the Coal Secretary. But first, the action on the street. The bulls are back on the street, but volatility is not going away. Market staged a dramatic rally in the last hour in what was yet another volatile session of trade. The Nifty surged past 8,700 in early trade, only to give up all those gains before finally rallying once again in the last few minutes. And ditto for the Sensex, which put on about 300 points. Perhaps, as Ekta has been saying, all's well that ends well. The index finally managed to close in green territory with a gain of 1%. Mid-caps also joined the party. That index also gained nearly 1%. Anuj Singhal is here with the day's trading highlights. Anuj, we saw some pretty good gains by the end of it, but the volatility in between, perhaps that still remains a concern?
Indeed, it's almost like, you had a great opening partnership, then a mid-innings collapse and late order came back to rescue you. It's almost 3 or 4 trading sessions crunched into one in today's trade. The bottom line was that the market ended at day's high. The bulls, after a long time, had the upper hand by the closing. And the fact that the banks led the second half surge would give a lot of heart to the bulls. But keep in mind, a lot of this is because the market is heading into an FOMC meet, and anecdotally market goes into these events long. So you still have to keep that caveat at the back of your mind. Let's talk about stocks then that led the market higher. It was broad-based in today's trade. HDFC was the top contributor, up 2.5%. Larsen & Toubro and ITC were the other stocks which contributed the most to the Nifty. Apart from that, as a sector, the one sector that stood out was metal. There was quite a bit of short covering. So Hindalco, Sesa, Tata Steel, they were all higher in today's trade. And as I said, banks led the second half comeback. So let's talk about some of the stocks. ICICI, Axis Bank, IndusInd Bank, all higher by about 1 to 2% in today's trade. Some other prominent Nifty winners included Dr. Reddy's. In fact, it's been a dream run for pharma stocks, and Dr. Reddy's was up 4% today. Ken was up 3.5%, and Tata Motors was up 2.5%. There were some losers as well, of course. JSPL, that stock was the top loser based on reacting to, of course, negative news. That was down 9%. Infosys and HCL Tech were also down about 1%. And in the mid-caps, the sector that's been having a dream run now is the mid-cap pharma. And now the move is getting down to some of the lower caps or the micro caps as well. Nectar Life was an example. Vimta Labs was other. Both were up quite a bit. And from the mid-cap space, we had Cadila Health that was up about 6%. So that's the day for now. It will be interesting to see what happens tomorrow because, as I said, the market normally goes into these policies with long bias. So it will be interesting to see in tomorrow's trading session, especially in the second half, what happens.
Yes, absolutely, Anuj. Thanks very much for that. Well, let's get in some perspective now. Madhu Kela, the chief investment strategist at Reliance Capital, expects Indian equities to consolidate in the next 3 to 6 months. However, he says the long-term India story is still intact.
If you have a medium-term perspective, which is like 3 to 5 years, there is still a long way to go for this bull market. However, in the very near term, I think consolidation could be a decent way to describe this market, because we have had such a big rise in individual companies also. So market should digest this rise, and before we go to the next level, I'm sure it has to get supported with the ground reality improving and the visibility of a much faster earning growth in the markets, so that we can take the next leg forward. Markets is more likely to consolidate, because for a few days, a few weeks, the numbers can be of anything. But I would rule out a much deeper correction beyond 8,000, because let's say that if you are in a bull market, one of the characteristics of the bull market that is always will climb the wall of worry, and there is no doubt in my mind that we are in a longer term bull market.
All right, now for all the action from the futures and options space, let's go across to Varinder Bansal.
Well, thank you so much. A volatile day of trade today. Clearly, opening at the green, dipping into the red, and then back surging into that green zone, closing above that 8700, which is a good thing. Options data clearly suggests that some upset could be there today, or when we open in the trade tomorrow, because we are now seeing put trading happening at 8700, and 9000 and 9001 call were active today. So watch out for those levels. But clearly, there was huge short covering which was seen in few stocks. Look at Hindalco. That stock was up 5.5%. Open interest was down. CESA was up 4%, held by short covering. Open interest was down nearly 4% there. And Kane India was up nearly 3.5%, again on back of short covering. Some of the fresh longs were seen in some interesting mid-cap stocks, and they have been moving up steadily. JSW Energy was up 5%. We saw open interest moving up by nearly 7%. Godrej Industries has been on an accumulation zone for quite some time, and today was up nearly 4.5%. Open interest was up by nearly 6%. Dabur and Sun TV were other stocks which are up, and we were seeing long build up over there as well. JSPL, that was clearly the stock of the day. It went down as low as nearly 18%, recovered nearly 10% from day's low, but yet ended down nearly 8%. We are seeing some short build up over there. And watch out for HCL Technologies. That stock was down nearly 1.5%, but we saw open interest moving up by nearly 20%. And Century Textile, clearly, unwinding scene over there, long unwinding scene over there. That stock was down only 4.5%, and open interest came down by nearly 6%.
All right, Varinder, thanks so much for that. So that's the futures and options action. Let's now talk about one of the biggest movers in trade today. And we're talking about fertilizers and chemicals, Travancore. Shares of fact, as it's known, were up nearly 20% in trade after Fertilizer Minister Anand Kumar announced that a new revival package is being worked out and that the proposal has already been sent to the Finance Ministry for approval. Ushang Shetna joins in with all the details. Ushang, how much money are we talking about here?
Well, thanks for that. So FACT has been buzzing in trade today. At close, the stock closed higher by nearly 20%. Earlier, the fertilizer minister did state that the revival package of 991 crore earlier approved by the BIFR is not sufficient. The new revival package has been put across to the FM and it has been sent for his approval. In fact, this company has been dragging quite a lot in terms of the performance. And if you look at the historical data, the company has been posting losses on a constant basis from 1999 onwards. In the latest figures, if you look at the FY14 data compared to the FY13 data, the losses continues to mount. In FY14, the company has posted losses to the tune of around 250 crore versus FY13 losses which were at around 350 crore. If you go further into the financials, the debt of the company also is pretty high at nearly 1,000 crore plus, and because of which the overall finance cost is also very high at nearly 190 crore. In fact, today we did speak to the management of the company, and on CNBC TV 18, the management did state that the company needs nearly 2,000 crore, which is double as compared to this 991 crore approved by the BIFR for the revival of the company. As of now, the company has to pay towards the feedstocks, otherwise the raw material cost and the various earlier suppliers of the company who have to be paid off with. The management did also state that looking at what the statement came from the fertilizer minister, where he did mention that the 991 crore package is not sufficient. It is likely that a higher amount which might come. As of now, they have opted for nearly 2,000 crore. So this overall has been a positive news for the company, and the stock closed higher by nearly 20% in trade today.
All right, Ushang, thanks for that. Let's now listen in to what the management of Fertilizers and Chemicals Travancore had to say, their reaction coming in to the government's move of bringing about this 991 crore rupee relief package.
It is really true that whatever was earlier thought of that 991 crore rupees as a short-term measure is no more valid. As on date, we need at least 2,000 crore rupees for you can say for not only for our feedstock and raw materials, but rather a lot of payments are to be made to some of our earlier suppliers. The company is having such a potential. If really a comprehensive package is thought of today, then there is going to be a long-term sustainable growth of the company.
All right, from the fertilizer space, moving to the auto space. Amtech Auto was the other stock that surged in trade today. This is after the company acquired a German-based company, Scholz Edelstahl GmbH, through its 100% Singapore-based subsidiary, Amtech Precision Engineering Pte Limited. The company expects the margins to increase on this business in the first year itself.
We are looking at a margin increase on this business in the first year itself. At the moment, I'm not at liberty to give you the exact price, but it's below 4 times EV/EBITDA. On our books right now, we have roughly about 900,000 crores. In November, we announced that we were in the process of closing 3 acquisitions. This is the first one of them, and there are about 2 more on that.
Amtech Auto rising in trade today. Let's move on then to the big story that we've been tracking here on CNBC TV 18. The government is re-examining bids for 8 coal blocks that were recently auctioned off. Coal Secretary Anil Swarup says the bids for these blocks are a bit of an outlier. That means that the bids are not in tune with the prevailing market trends with respect to some of the other bids. In an exclusive interview with CNBC TV 18, Swarup said that decision on these blocks will be taken by the end of this week. Listen in.
In the Schedule 2, we were looking at 4 mines, and in Schedule 3 we are looking at 5 mines, not exactly reviewed because there was no decision taken. A review happens when you take a decision and review it. In this case, we are examining some details. Prima facie, we found that it requires a re-examination. On the face of it, we felt that the bids that were offered were not at the same levels as similar blocks in the same group. But that was not a decision per se, that was a first impression, and that needed to be examined, and that's why it is being examined. The idea of having reverse bid was basically to impact the tariffs in the negative sense, in the sense of reducing the tariffs, and that is what government is very clear about. I would like to go on record, right from day one I have been saying that existing PPAs will be reopened and tariff adjusted downwards in the case of reverse bidding.
All right, time for a break now, but coming up, more market perspective, this time round from Sanjay Dutt, and we'll also tell you about the other stocks that were in focus today.
First on CNBC TV 18.
Auto has informed the Bombay Stock Exchange that the company has indeed gone ahead and acquired a German-based company called Scholz Edelstahl.
On a lot of the acquisitions, we don't pay more than roughly around about 4x EV/EBITDA, and this acquisition is actually below that value. We are looking at a margin increase on this business in the first year itself.
Very important information coming in from IRB Infra. 3,000 crore project approx, and of which about 560 crores is coming from the government by way of viability gap funding, which is about 16% is paid for by the government, and that's upfront.
Order book is close to 11,000 crores at this point in time, and this particular project forms a big part of it. I would say it is the second largest project in the portfolio after Ahmedabad, Baroda.
Revival package has been already approved by me and has been sent to the Finance Ministry and to the Cabinet. I think there is a requirement of revisiting that revival package.
We need at least 2,000 crore rupees for you can say for not only for our feedstock and raw materials, but rather a lot of payments are to be made to some of our earlier suppliers.
First on CNBC TV 18. First in business worldwide.